gives you clear analysis, fresh updates, and smart insights without the stress. My name is Oye Walton Ankrah, and I bring you everything you need to know in the world of business Mondays to Thursdays at 12:30. Let's have lunch together. The Afternoon Business Review, where Ghana's Business Day gets explained. Airlines and the broader aviation sector are vital to Ghana's economy, contributing billions to the gross domestic product, that's the GDP, and supporting hundreds of thousands of cities. The sector serves as the backbone of the country's tourism industry, which alone previously accounted for about $3.7 billion and roughly 5% of the national GDP. Industry analysis have historically pegged the contribution of aviation and its supported tourism and trade activities to several billions of dollars in the Ghanaian economy. Additionally, activities from major international carriers such as Emirates provide critical export-import capacity, uplifting tens of thousands of tons of fresh produce and precious metals out of the Accra International Airport annually. Airlines directly contribute millions in airport taxes and government fees to boost further long-term growth and fund critical aviation infrastructure projects. Yes, the airline and the broader aviation sector are vital to Ghana's economy. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Afternoon Business Review, where we tell you what moves money and markets. It's a rainy day, but we are talking business over lunch. Have you had lunch already? Get something hot, some hot coffee, hot tea, hot cocoa, or anything that you want. Let's talk business. Let's see what is moving your money and your pocket. What is driving market growth, inflation, the city. Oh, everything that has to do with money and markets. What is shaping the economy? Yes, we have all the information for you on the Afternoon Business Review this minute. On that note, let's look at how the commodities are faring on the global market. Crude oil is selling at 89 pesos, is still below the $100 mark, which is some good news for all of us. Gold is being pegged at $4,336. Cocoa is priced at $3,918. That's per ton. Per ton of cocoa is now $3,918 on the world market. Have you exchanged any currencies lately? Yes. If you have, then you know that the cedi is still depreciating. The cedi is selling, that is against the dollar though. That's against the dollar. So the dollar is selling at 11 cedis, 84 pesos. 11 cedis, 84 pesos. Yes. As of last week, it was 11 cedis, 60 pesos. And it stayed within the 60 pesos mark, so 64, 63, 62. And this week, we are seeing 11 cedis, 84 pesos per dollar. Yes, per dollar. And if you want to buy some dollars, you are likely to buy it at 11 cedis, 83 pesos. The British pound is trading at 15 cedis, 80 pesos. And if you want to buy, you're likely to buy it at 15 cedis, 79 pesos. And the euro is going for 13 cedis, 66 pesos. If you want to buy, you're likely to get it at 13 cedis, 65 pesos. That's the interbank rate. That's how much you're likely to get these currencies at the commercial banks. So the ABSA, the Stand Chart, the UBA, all of them, Fidelity, GCB Bank, CBG, Ghana, and the likes. Yes, if I didn't mention your favorite bank, I'm sorry. But this is how much you're likely to buy the currencies: the dollar, the pound, and the euro in any of the commercial banks. Those are the retail rates. Let's look at the stocks now, how the stocks are faring on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Yes, if you have some stocks there, this should interest you. But it is not coming from me. The update is coming from Caitlin Dati of Data Bank.
The stock market closed on Friday with price losses in four equities. The top laggards were Cowbank, Fan Milk, Republic Bank, and Zen Petroleum. Driven by the price moves, the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index declined to a year-to-date return of 63.04%, while the Data Bank Stock Index declined to a year-to-date return of 75.3%. MTN Ghana traded the most on Friday, accounting for 56% of the market turnover after trading 622,825 shares over 22 counters. For Data Bank Research, Caitlin Dazi.
And right here in the studios of Class 91.1, 91.3, yes. It's a rainy day, I'm sorry. I haven't had any hot chocolate to drink. My producer didn't get me any hot chocolate. Yes. Yeah, so that's coming from the updates coming from the Ghana Stock Exchange, and Caitlin Dati of Databank brought us that update. And here in the studios of Class 91.3 FM, my name is Oye Walton Ankrah. You are on the Afternoon Business Review, where we tell you what is moving your money, your stocks, and the market around you. It's now time for us to look at stories that are shaping the Ghanaian economy, and then we move internationally. Nana Juman Prempeh, my co-host, is here. Nana, what is the biggest story? Yesterday was historic.
Yeah.
It was historic. Yeah. Yeah, it was historic, and
Very.
and it is refreshing to see that, or to know that we are finally going to process our crude oil here, refine it here, and we use it here.
In the
This
midst
is
of the Middle East brouhaha. and all
yes,
that.
Middle East. I mean, Middle East. Why should they concern us? Yes, but unfortunately, it does, because we rely so much on external sources when it comes to refined oil. The fuel that we all use, it's imported. And yesterday, there was some relief. We all sighed, and we got to know that finally we are going to refine some oil here in Ghana. So we actually drilled the crude here,
Yeah.
and then we send it out to get it refined, and then we go and buy it at higher rate and come and use. So interestingly, but of course, give us details of that
Kasiela Toforsen has announced that Ghana has revised its expected petroleum revenue for 2026 to about 1.5 billion US dollars, up from 985 million dollars, as higher international crude oil prices boosted the country's expected earnings from the sector. According to him, the upward revision was driven largely by rising crude oil prices linked to development in the Middle East. The original 2026 petroleum revenue projection of $985 million was based on a benchmark crude oil price of $76.22 per barrel, marginally higher than the $74.70 per barrel used in the 2025 budget statement and economic policy. He spoke in an interview on Bloomberg in London.
We estimated approximately $1 billion United States dollars from the oil revenue this year going to the heritage stabilization and annual budget funded amount. But that has been revised since, and we expect that instead of $1 billion, we'll be expecting about $1.5 billion, for example.
Why is that? Is it been more productive?
Why is it? I think it's because, one, we had earlier on program, the budget of 2026, we assumed that oil price would be about $70. Today, it's in excess of $90. And so there is obviously an increase. And so since we are also an exporter of oil, the country also benefit from the high price as well.
So that if we see a peace agreement in the Middle East, how do you anticipate that then feeding through?
The good news is that because we had already programmed $70 or $74, the peace agreement that brings it back to $74 is to our advantage because we never anticipated that we're going to go to $90 or $100.
Yeah, the Minister of Finance, Dr. Kasiela Toforsen, on the international front, global spending on nuclear weapons reached a record $119 billion in 2025, underscoring fears that the world is entering a new and more dangerous era of nuclear competition. According to a new report by the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, the world's 9 nuclear-armed states collectively increased expenditure on their nuclear arsenals by $16.8 billion compared to the previous year. The figure marks the highest level recorded since ICAN began tracking nuclear weapons expenditure and comes at a time of worsening geopolitical tensions, weakening arms control systems, and intensifying rivalry among military powers. The United States remained by far the largest spender, allocating an estimated $69.2 billion to its nuclear program in 2025. That was more than the combined spending of all other nuclear armed countries. China followed with $13.5 billion, while the United Kingdom spent $12.2 billion. Russia and France recorded an estimated amount of $9.5 billion and $7.7 billion respectively. So Nana, that's it for Stars shipping the local and international scene.
Many thanks, Nanajuman Premper. And we go straight to our big conversation. And there are two issues that I really want us to look at. One is the Centu oil refinery that has taken delivery of its first consignment and to refine, that is crude oil I'm talking about, from the Jubilee field, refine it so that we use it here. And that the reason why a lot of these Asian countries are what they are is because the oil that they drill there, they refine and use it. So it is very, 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 very cheap. When you have cheap fuel, it's cut across all the other sectors of the economy. Because if I am buying fuel at a cheaper rate, I am going to make sure that the goods that I transport to Accra from the rural communities are sold at cheaper prices. So it reflects in other areas of the economy. But our big conversation actually has to do with some figures coming in from the finance ministry, which suggests that government left 24 billion cedis of its first quarter 2026 budget unspent and collected 2.7 billion less revenue than it had targeted. And that's fiscal data that you can find at the Finance Ministry that the government left 24 billion cedis of its first quarter 2026 budget unspent. Let's go onto the phone line and speak with Dr. George Domfe, who is an economist at the University of Ghana. Doc, thank you very much for your time on the Afternoon Business Review on Class 91.3 FM.
Thank you for having me, Nana.
Doc, if the government decides not to spend this amount, 24 billion cedis, what does it mean? Is the government being stingy not to, push money to the various sectors that need money?
Let me thank you very much, my dear, and for the opportunity to be part of the program, and also to say very good afternoon to our cherished listeners and viewers. Yes, it depends on the government's priority. I have seen one thing, and that is becoming increasingly very clear, that the government wants to keep the books very clean. Let's take it from what happened last year, 2025. Government had budgeted to spend 269 billion Ghana cedis. And in the process, they were supposed to rake in a total revenue of 229 billion, so that the difference would have been what we would borrow and all the others to balance the equation. At the end of the day, government spent 36 billion less than what they projected to spend. And when you do that, you are not making money available to the people. We have two causes of an inflation. We have what is called demand pull, and we have what is called cost push. When it is demand pull, then we are talking about increases in prices of the factors of production. So the factors of production are the labor, entrepreneurship, land, capital. If these things go up, for example, if electricity price go up, and water tariffs and all those others, if they go up, what it means is that those who are producing are likely to sell what they have produced at exorbitant rates. And when that happens, we say the inflation is cost push. So it is not because people have money, so much money chasing feel good, that is why prices are going up, but it's simply because the cost of production has gone up. And so that becomes cost push. Another angle of inflation is demand pull, that is monetary effect. In that way, we look at inflation as prices going up because Kofi has so much money, Ama has so much money, and if all of us have so much money in our pocket, we tend to go to the market to queue. As we are queuing and buying, those who are selling are encouraged to increase prices. And so Bank of Ghana, one of the key things that the bank does is to make sure they regulate the money in circulation. So people don't have so much money in their pockets. That is what we call excess liquidity. At least every economy, you're supposed to have a certain amount of money that will commensurate with productivity. If you have more than needed, we call it excess liquidity. It means you don't need that money. And when that money is in the system, to rather push people to buy more, and as people are buying more, prices, those who are selling will increase their prices, and prices of goods and services will not necessarily go up. And so if you want to address that as a government, what do? You do what we call contractionary fiscal policy. And contractionary fiscal policy, you reduce expenditure. And so last year, you could clearly see that the revenue performance wasn't that bad. They were supposed to rake in, they projected to rake in 229 billion. They succeeded raking in 224 billion. So it was just, it fell short by only 5 billion. So the performance wasn't bad. And so we were expecting government to spend more, but at the end of the day, they ended up spending 233. What does that mean? In that way, it means that those money, the 36 billion that was projected to be made available to the economy, they didn't come. And when those monies are not there, Kwasi is not buying, Ama is not buying, and so those who are producing are forced, and those who are selling are forced to reduce prices. So as inflation goes down, government gets all the good name because this year March, inflation hit 3.2%, and that happens to be the lowest since 1985. I see the government's aim is to get a clean book, and they are getting that in that direction. Now, if you move even from the fiscal side and you go to the monetary, then it becomes worse. The monetary side during the year, I'm talking about 2025, Bank of Ghana engaged in open market operation, and they had to spend 16.7 good billion Ghana cedis in this exercise. And when we talk about open market operation, it's just to say that Bank of Ghana was buying money. In the process of buying money, using government BOG bills and government instruments, they ended up paying interest rate to the commercial banks to the tune of 16.7 billion. What that meant was that they took so much out of the economy. That was not the only thing Bank of Ghana did. Every month, they were also coming out, on average, pumping $1 billion to the system to protect the city. And the dollar, anytime they pump, they take away city equivalent. For example, this month, they have decided to intervene with $1.2 billion. At the time they made the announcement, $1 was going for 11 cedi 70 pesos. This clearly means that at the end of the month, Bank of Ghana is going to take away 14 billion Ghana cedis from the system. And because they are taking so much money from the system today, if you go to Makola, the women there are complaining. They go to market, nobody buys from them. If you go to an Abosoka, the same thing. If you go to Atebugu, yam sellers, people are not buying their yam. Recently, a rice farmers from Volta region complained that nobody is buying their rice.
Right.
And so, because we don't have money in the system, so that is what is happening. And the good side is that it helps the government to keep clean book. The pressure on CD reduces, inflation goes down. But the other side is that it is affecting productivity. It is compromising the ability of the economy to create jobs.
Doc, but isn't keeping a clean book an indication of aggressive discipline? And I'm asking because of how we have been indisciplined in our spending over the years.
Yeah, so before finance ministry, for example, sat down and said in their budget that we were going to spend 269 billion. It meant that if they had spent that amount, it wouldn't have generated excess liquidity problems. Because nobody told them to say they were going to spend 269. Okay? And I'm sure that did not come out of below. They looked at the entire economy. This year, they said they are going to spend, about 302 billion. Okay? So last year, they promised 269. You didn't spend, you ended up spending 233, a shortfall of 36 billion. So think of the number of things the government could have used the 36 billion to do that they didn't do. If you do that, you are slow. You are not pushing the agenda of development at the rate that Ghanaians want to see it, because this 36 billion, some of it would have gone to build roads, some of it would have gone to build hospitals, some of it would have gone to do so many other things. The economy is not solely about inflation. It's not solely about the strength of the city. The city, the stability that we are talking about, is not an end in itself. It is a means to an end. The stability is supposed to create comfort. It's not the other way. But this one, the stability that we are enjoying,
it's creating discomfort.
Because if you go to the Bank of Ghana, they have a band that they work with. The band is that inflation should be 8% plus or minus 2.
Yeah.
That is the band Bank of Ghana works with. And so inflation is supposed to hover between 6 and 10. And so as far as Bank of Ghana is concerned, when inflation is above 10, it is very bad. Consumers will be suffering. And if inflation also falls below 6, producers are going to suffer. Inflation is just like BP. If it is too high, it kills. If it is too low, it kills. Every economy has its own bank. And so it didn't just come out of blue. People have sat down to design that optimal level of inflation for Ghana, that it should be between 6 and then 10. and then you spend so much money to bring the inflation down. The moment you hit your bank, that is when we hit between 6 and 7. That was when Bank of Ghana should have slowed. But they continuously and aggressively pursued open market operation, and that brought in its wake 16.7 billion loss to the country. This is, taxpayers, you and I, we are going to pay for it, and it's not giving us also comfort because we have now fallen below the band, which is 6 minimum of 6, and today inflation is 3.7. What does that mean? It means that we have taken away the excess liquidity, and it has affected productive liquidity. What people should have kept to buy, to encourage producers to produce, has now been taken from the system, and it is with the Bank of Ghana. That is the productive, and if the productive liquidity becomes constrained, if it's not available, what it means is that people cannot buy, and if people are not buying, producers will not be encouraged to produce more. It's when they are encouraged to produce more that they are going to engage new hands, and so this is going to also affect unemployment. Already we have serious problem with unemployment, and so what the government is doing, you see, we say too much of everything more is bad, and it is often said that when you are hungry and you get food, you don't use both hands to eat. We still have to use one of the hands, and so the government should have been very careful the way they are aggressively, using contractionary monetary policy to complement contractionary fiscal policy. And if you do this, you are punishing producers, you are punishing the private sector, and the entire economy is going to suffer. But in the books, the stability and inflation would have fallen. Everything goes on well. People will be clapping for you. After all, we have registered the lowest inflation since 1985, and so you would clap for them. But behind that, what are we getting?
Right, Doc. So it's for you. It's a bad idea for living or refusing to spend and saving 24 billion cedis of your first quarter budget.
Yeah, that is even very surprising. I was talking about last year and this year during the first quarter, they were supposed to rake in the total revenue of 60. They didn't get that. They would manage to get 57.5 billion, which to me is not too bad. But with this money, and last year you promised to spend a certain 36 billion you never spent. And this year the budget, according to the budget you presented to us, you were also supposed to have spent by this time during the first quarter, January, February, March. You were supposed to spend a certain 24 billion. You did not spend. If you do that, you are taking away, or you are not making money available to the people.
Right.
And so that can affect production. That can affect the growth of the economy. The economy is already very vulnerable. And so if we say when we spend, inflation will go up, and because of that we are not going to spend, then we will never grow. We will stagnate. We will keep good books, but forever in the next 1 million years, Ghana will still be where it is.
Right. Thank you so much, as always, Dr. George Domfe. Dr. George Domfe is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana, and he was talking to us on some statistics coming in from the Finance Ministry that the government left 24 billion cedis of its first quarter 2026 budget unspent and collected just about 2.7 billion cedis. That is less revenue than it had targeted. We'll bring you more on this in subsequent editions of the Afternoon Business Review. My name is Oye Walton Ankrah. Many thanks for your time always, and do stay blessed.